Hey everybody, Thomas Joseph here. Now, with so many whisks out there in the marketplace, you might be saying, what do I need those whisks for and why? Well, today I'm going to share with you 3 whisks that you should have in your kitchen and how you should use them. This is probably my favorite whisk. It's an all-purpose whisk for me. It's called a French whisk. And when you're buying a whisk, you want to make sure that the wires here, or the tines of the whisk, are nice and thin and flexible. This version I have here is super thick and rigid and isn't going to create the movement that you need when you're using the tool. So a French whisk is really great when you are creating emulsions. So whether that's a mayonnaise or probably more commonly a vinaigrette or salad dressing. So today I'm going to show you that. Now in this bowl I have vinegar, salt, pepper, a little bit of mustard. And another good thing for this whisk before I start using it is it's really great when you're cooking with it on the stovetop as well. Because it has this narrow base to it here, it fits into the corners of any pot, so that prevents any burning that might happen in the corner of the pot. So this is really one of my favorite whisks to use. Now for a vinaigrette, you're just gonna mix everything together. Make sure that you have a good amount of mustard. A little bit of mayonnaise would be really helpful here because that's the key ingredient in keeping an emulsion. An emulsion is it's a technical term, and it means the suspension of oil within vinegar, or vice versa. So combining the two in a homogeneous mix. So I'm gonna slowly drizzle in my olive oil. You wanna do this at a slow rate, whisking constantly. And whenever I use this whisk, especially when I'm making an emulsion like this, I like to whisk in a figure 8. So keeping the tip of the whisk down on the bottom of the bowl, and just keeping that figure 8 going. Now, you can add as much oil as you like. If you like an acidic dressing like I do, I like 1 part of vinegar to maybe like 2 parts of oil, but more typically I would say it's 3 parts of oil. So there you go, a French whisk used for a French vinaigrette or a French mayonnaise, a really useful tool to have in the kitchen. Now, my second favorite whisk would be the balloon whisk. And as you can see, since there is this bulbous end to the whisk, it really has a lot of spring to it, a lot of movement, and that's really key and important when you are using it to make whipped creams or meringues, because what it does is it creates movement, and that movement creates air, and that's what we're trying to do here when we're whisking up whipped cream, as I have here in front of me. Now I'm using a chilled bowl and chilled cream. When you're making whipped cream, you want to make sure your ingredients are cold. When you're making a meringue, if you're doing it by hand, good for you, you want to make sure that you're using room temperature ingredients, because that's how you'll get the most volume out of your egg whites. So when you're using a balloon whisk, the motion is going to be up and down and over. So it's not the figure 8 as I was showing you with the French whisk, but it's kind of up, and it's already, you can see that the cream is starting to build volume. There are small air pockets forming, and this is how you use a balloon whisk. So there you go, a nice stiff whipped cream, and really the springiness of this whisk will help you to get the most volume possible. Now, last but not least, a newer whisk out there on the market, and this is the flat whisk, and it's also called a roux whisk because it's typically used in making gravies or pan sauces. So how do you do that? Well, I have a pan here, a nice shallow pan. Whenever you're making gravies or pan sauces, you want to make sure that you're using a vessel that's pretty shallow, nothing with high sides, otherwise it's going to inhibit the use of this whisk. Since it is flat, you really want to be able to use it at a lower angle. So I'm going to heat this up, I'm going to dust the pan and the residual fat and brown bits with a little bit of flour. That is a roux. Again, the name of this whisk. So what you want to do is you want to apply pressure to the whisk and almost flatten out the tines slightly. They do kind of spring apart, but this motion here is going to help you scrape up all of the bits and combine things. So you can see it's acting as almost like a spatula in a way in scraping up those brown bits, but it's also a whisk as well, and it's combining all of these ingredients together. So once this pan gets nice and hot and the flour starts to toast a little bit, then you can deglaze this pan. I'm using chicken stock today, but you could certainly use a nice vermouth, a cognac for a little bit of flavor, and then add some stock. Now, another use for this whisk that's typically not marketed, but you could certainly do it, is this a really great tool for fishing poached eggs out of their poaching liquid, or even fish out of a poaching liquid. It almost acts as a fish spatula in a ways when you're fishing something out of a liquid. And you could also even, if you didn't have an egg separator and you needed to separate a lot of eggs, you could also use this tool by dropping the eggs closer to the tip of the whisk. So this looks pretty good here. The flour, I'm getting a toasted smell, so I'm going to add in my chicken stock. Now, whenever you're adding your liquid into your roux, you want to add it a small amount at a time and whisk in, kind of diluting the roux slightly. Otherwise, if you dump in all of the liquid, it's going to create clumps. So do it gradually, work out the clumps, and then you can add the rest of your ingredients. So there you go. A few stirs, and you have a perfect lump-free gravy or pan sauce here. So that's the flat whisk, guys. Again, you know what? I'm going to show you one more time. The all-purpose, my favorite. If you're going to buy one whisk, buy this one. This is the French whisk. And of course, our French favorite here. This is the balloon whisk. So there you go, guys. Now you know the 3 different types of whisks. It's always great to have the right tool for the job. If you have any kitchen conundrums, reach out to us using the hashtag Kitchen Conundrums. We love to hear from you. Enjoy, guys.